Wednesday, the 14th of February. Welcome everyone to the show. This is your Frontier Opening Bell. I am Bosi number 5. Just a quick rundown through some of the Pan-African markets we report for you on a daily basis. The Nigerian stock market dived 0.33%. That's roughly 800 billion naira on Tuesday. And the market was a little bit downside, a mixed day around the banking sector. Again, we've got a few declines as well outside the banking sector names. The BRVM went up by 0.20%, led by a couple of big names on the Ivorian market, including Orange Telecom, whose share price was up roughly 5.5%. You've got the Egyptian market continuing that trajectory since Monday, up by 0.39% on the EGX30 on Tuesday. Then you've got the Nairobi stock market. Of course, investors are enthused about the $1.5 billion Eurobond that the government just floated in the current week. That comes at about 10.5 roughly percent yield to creditors who bought into that. The other book about $5 billion US dollars. So the stock market is taking that, riding that crest, as it were. Then you've got the GSE down by 0.89%. Emerging markets, developed markets in Europe, including London, were negatively run through on Tuesday. Let's take it down. Take a quick look at the big stories out of the East African continent. Of course, you've got a bigger picture. The International Energy Agency, the IEA, marks its 58th anniversary with a grand ceremony, which was done yesterday. We also got the January, the monthly report of the OPEC Plus, speaking to global oil demand to increase by as much as 1.8 million barrels per day in 2025. The Rwanda reporting inflation around 5%, lower than 6.4% in the month of December, while the Kenya's central bank is projecting about 734 billion shillings inflows on foreign investors. That's all the Kenyan government is doing. Kenyan President William Ruto spoke on the country's innovation and technology, including M-Pesa's 17 years iconic reign in the world of fintech in Kenya and around the world. Say, M-Pesa's does about $1.2 billion daily in about 8 countries around the world. That's one of those key points from his presentations at the World Government Summit that took place Monday, Tuesday in Dubai, the UAE. Then you've got the Kenya Power imports from Uganda is rising about 18% in the month behind us. Then you've got UK's Globalec energy company looking to invest about $4.6 billion or shillings, I beg your pardon, 4.6 billion shillings in solar projects in Kenya. And that's some good news there for Kenya, trying to raise the percentage of its clean energy, one of the highest on the continent. Let's get on to West Africa, of course, with Nigeria's Access Holdings announcing yesterday that Bolaji Agbede will be replacing Herbert Uige, who died in a tragic car accident in the US last weekend. That news came in. Of course, you also have NESD over-the-counter market announcing the appointment of a new non-executive director, Mrs. Aishetu Abraham. Also in the Nigeria space, the UK signed a deal with the Nigeria's Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment that will allow British lawyers to practice in Nigeria. That's part of the deal signed between the UK Secretary in charge of Business and Trade with the Nigeria's counterpart. That deal was kicked against strongly overnight. A 2-page, strongly worded statement from the Nigerian Bar Association says it will contest the legality of this new deal between UK and Nigeria up to the Supreme Court in Nigeria, and says this deal that will allow British lawyers to stand in Nigerian courts and represent folks and take on cases is inimical to the interests of the Nigerian Bar Association and the legal profession in the country. The MB is asking if there is a reciprocity in this deal that was signed. The whole angst is out there on the streets just less than 24 hours after the deal was signed at the ceremony. Let's look at TCN. That's the transmission company of Nigeria. Says it's cut down power supply from 25 megawatts to 10 megawatts to about electricity. And that's, of course, you may know, Southeast Nigeria, one of the country's most industrialized parts, an entrepreneurial a segment of the Nigerian economy is getting a whole lot lower power. Again, because the TCN, which is the transmission company of Nigeria, is buckling in the manner of speaking. And Moody's yesterday released a very expansive new report on Africa's banking sector. 9 areas were covered. According to the Moody's, 4 sub-regions in Africa in terms of banking were positive. 3 were stable, and 2 were negative. You can read up all the details of it if you care. Burkina Faso sales tax is expected to drop to top 18% by the end. The idea is the government there is increasing sales tax on folks because the sanctions by ECOWAS biting on the West African economy. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger recently exited themselves from ECOWAS 16-country economic region. And Yeboah inflation is coming through at about slightly higher. That's according to latest data for 2023. Let's keep that in mind. Let's move on to very quickly to see what's the top stories in Southern Africa. In South Africa's fixed investment sliding amid private sector's lack of confidence in the economy under President Cyril Ramaphosa. In the meantime, Zimbabwe continues to tweak its foreign exchange market. The dip down for the Zimbabwean dollar. Exchange rate linked to hard assets is part of the plan and introduction of a currency board. In the meantime, Malawi's got the backing of the IMF as far as its fund's approach to debt rejigging is concerned. And good news as Mozambique joins Africa 50. That subsidiary or that arm of the private sector infrastructure funding of the African Development Bank is based in Cairo, Egypt. And of course, Malawi withdrawing foreign exchange bill. We'll see how that will help the country to get in bed with the IMF for necessary funding support. Let's take it to North Africa, where it all started. And of course, Egypt is in the eyes of everything. But first, let's start with Tunisia, where the country says it's posted 0.6% upside in consumer prices in January. Prices are increasing. According to Moody's latest Africa banking sector, the economy is tough in Tunisia on the back of President Said's turning his back on the IMF olive branch in a manner of speaking. So the country's fiscal deficit banks are also excessively exposed to government securities in Tunisia. Trade deficit for the country, however, narrowed by 49.7, roughly 50% last month. In the meantime, Allianz of Egypt says it has renewed its 5-year deal with Emirates NBD. Congratulations. As well as news coming through that Germany and Algeria has formed a task force to promote hydrogen, a project in Egypt. Still in energy, Morocco has gotten Germany's PTX funds, 270 million euros. That's the sum on the table for green hydrogen projects. Morocco is one of Africa's leading clean energy producer. And those are your headlines this Wednesday morning here on Frontier Opening Bell. I am Boostin Omafa. You can watch the show again online on our YouTube. And of course, we want you to also subscribe to our YouTube. It's free. And of course, you can go on our social media handles on Twitter, X, by the way, X, that's X. Then, of course, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you've got LinkedIn. We want you to follow our shows and all the other shows we do. Send in your comments. And of course, we appreciate your feedback as well. I'll see you soon.